Do you ever stop to wonder if the choices you make are genuinely your own? Are our selections truly a matter of free will, or are they subtly scripted by the hardwiring of our genetics? Countless times we navigate life believing in the autonomy of our decisions, oblivious to the subconscious programming that marketers tap into, exploiting hidden biases we didn't even know we had. Welcome to WeEvo, where we empower you to reach your full potential one skill at a time. In this video, we peel back the layers of human decision-making with Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. We will venture into the shadows of behavioral economics, exposing the manipulative tactics often employed by those who understand just how predictable our irrationality can be. It's a game of influence where nature and nurture conspire, and we're here to break it all down. Brace yourself as we uncover the unseen side of marketing savvy and consumer psychology. You're about to discover just how much of you is actually behind the choices you make. Concept 1. The truth about relativity. Every day we make choices, from the mundane to the monumental, and believe we hold the compass to our desires. But did you know that more often than not, our decisions are not solely ours, but rather skillfully guided by the invisible hand of relativity? Picture this. You're in a tech store, surrounded by an array of shiny new smartphones. One model in particular catches your eye. It's the middle-priced option. It's neither the most expensive nor the cheapest, striking a balance that feels just right. This, my friends, is the relative value effect playing its tune. It turns out, our brains don't like the hard work of assessing absolute value. Instead, we take a shortcut by comparing the surrounding choices, often leading us into a well-laid trap of comparison shopping. Why does this happen? The principles of contrast and context kick in here. In the grand theater of marketing, items are rarely presented in isolation. That middle-priced smartphone? It's sandwiched between a less appealing budget option and a bank-breaking deluxe model. It shines brighter when flanked by its carefully staged counterparts. That's the contrast effect, where our brain's evaluation is swayed by the neighboring alternatives. Whether it's a gadget, a job offer, or a potential new home, remember to peel back the layers of relative values presented to you. Look for the anchor. Is it rational, or is it a relic of our irrational selves? Identifying these anchors is your first step toward a more enlightened choice. We judge options relative to other available choices and are influenced by comparably inferior alternatives. The decoy effect can sway our decisions by making one option seem more attractive. People compare and contrast options that are easily comparable and avoid those that are not. Concept 2. The fallacy of supply and demand. Picture yourself in your favorite coffee shop, where the aroma of freshly ground beans promises a perfect start to your day. Now imagine seeing a price increase on your usual order. Would you accept it as fair or grumble about the cost? This conundrum sits at the heart of the fallacy of supply and demand. Let's explore price anchoring, the subtle craft of setting a stage where prices are the stars. It's a phenomenon that guides what we're willing to pay for anything, from a cup of coffee to a luxury car. Take a wine list, for instance. A savvy restaurant owner might list an exorbitantly priced bottle, not with the intent to sell, but to make the rest seem more palatably priced. This strategy banks on a cognitive bias known as the anchor effect, where the first price we see shapes how we view subsequent prices. Once this anchor is set, it has the power to draw our willingness to pay towards it, often without any logical justification. And what about those sales signs we're so fond of? They leverage this inherent bias by giving us a reference price that we can't help but use as a benchmark. This psychological tactic works because humans are notoriously bad at evaluating the intrinsic value of things. Instead, we depend on relative value, and that's where the magic, or the fallacy, of supply and demand dances into play. Now, this is where it gets even more bewildering. Ariely introduces us to the concept of artificial demand. Why would we desire something more just because it's scarce? Scarcity seems to whisper sweet nothings into our rational minds, inflating our desire and, ironically, our readiness to spend. An item in short supply can suddenly seem immensely more valuable, even if just moments before we hadn't given it a second glance. This concept encourages us to be vigilant about the environments that mold our perceptions of value. Keep an eye out for those anchors. Question whether scarcity is influencing your decision more than the object's actual worth. Why? Because by understanding these undercurrents, we become better equipped to sail through the market's choppy waters without getting shipwrecked on irrational spending. So, the next time you encounter a limited time offer or a reduced from tag, pause and consider. Is it truly a value that you can't afford to miss, or is it just an illusion cast by the market's puppeteers? As we move forward, let us ponder and challenge the intimate dance between demand, supply, and our own tangled webs of value. Initial prices can anchor our willingness to pay and strongly influence future pricing expectations and perceptions of value. Demand can be manufactured and manipulated, not just naturally occurring. Anchors can stick in our mind for an extended period, shaping future behavior. Concept 3. The cost of zero cost. Have you ever queued for hours to get something for free? Whether it's a sample, a promotion, or a buy one get one deal, the allure of getting something for nothing is irresistible. In this concept, we embark on a journey through the seductive realm of free, unraveling why this four-letter word has the power to override our logical brain. At the heart of this concept is the zero price effect. Free comes with an emotional charge that no other price can compete with. It suggests a bargain without any downside, but aerially peels back the layers to reveal the true cost of free. He shows us through ingenious experiments that our attraction to zero cost can often lead us to make irrational choices that aren't in our best interest. Take the example of a simple online order. We're often swayed to buy something we don't need just to hit that free shipping threshold, or consider the free phone with a contract that's more costly in the long run. Why does free bewitch us so? Here's the real kicker. It turns out that our fear of loss is what's being manipulated. When we're offered something for free, we're not just thinking about what we gain, but more importantly, we're avoiding the pain associated with losing money. Ariely's insights reveal that this aversion to loss is so strong that it clouds our judgment, leading us to chase after free even when it doesn't make sense. But here's the twist. By understanding the psychology at play, we can protect ourselves against these irrational impulses. Next time you're tempted by a free offer, take a step back. Ask yourself, is it truly free, or is there an unseen cost? Is the value of what you're obtaining worth more than the effort or the alternative costs incurred? Free offers powerfully impact decision-making, often outweighing actual benefits. The allure of free can lead to irrational choices that aren't optimal. Concept 4. The cost of social norms. Let's examine how social norms not only warm our hearts, but can also lead to unexpected outcomes, especially when they collide with market norms. Get ready to explore where kindness meets commerce and common courtesy meets cold, hard cash. At the core of this concept lie the social versus market norms. Social norms guide us in a world of friendly exchanges. They're the unwritten rules of please and thank you, the invisible handshakes of daily interactions, and they're often glued together not by contracts, but by the warmth of our relationships and goodwill. Have you ever helped a friend move house without expecting anything in return? That's social norms beautifully at play. On the other hand, market norms are transactional. They're about explicit agreements, prices, and penalties. Think about your workplace. You get paid for your time and expertise, and if your employer stopped paying, you'd likely stop working. So, why does this matter? Well, Ariely leads us through the delicate dance between these two norms, and shows how mixing them can lead to quite a fiasco. When market norms hover over acts initially propelled by social norms, it changes everything. Your next-door neighbor who happily loaned you tools might suddenly feel slighted when offered money, or a sincere gesture of help turns uncomfortable when reciprocity is treated like a business transaction. Understanding how these norms function is crucial. When we acknowledge the power of gratitude over a cash incentive, or the potential disincentive once money is introduced into a socially driven equation, we begin to see the fabric of society and our relationships in a different light. Next time you're about to offer something more tangible than a heartfelt thanks, think twice. Might that humble pie of appreciation be worth more than the dough you're handing out? Combining social norms with market norms can harm relationships and lead to decreased satisfaction and performance. Gifts are governed by social norms, which are more powerful and long-lasting than financial incentives. Once a social norm is contaminated by market norms, it's difficult to go back. Concept 5. The influence of arousal. Imagine yourself at the peak of excitement, your pulse quickening, and your senses heightened. Now, pause and recall the decisions you've made in those heated moments. Ever wondered how much arousal influences your judgment? Let's deep dive into the powerful grip of arousal on our decision-making process. Delving into the influence of arousal aerially uncovers just how drastically our preferences and decisions shift when we're under the spell of heightened emotions. Like a stage director commanding the spotlight, arousal transforms us, turning careful contemplation into impulsive action. It's the heady rush that pushes us to act now and think later, often leading to choices we might not recognize in a calmer state. Why does this lead us astray? The theory is rooted in the chasm between our hot and cold states. In our cool, collected moments, we have a vision of ourselves as rational beings, capable of making wise choices. But introduce arousal into the mix, and suddenly we switch to autopilot, driven by emotion rather than logic. Our ability to forecast our behavior under these hot conditions is remarkably flawed, leading to a disconnect between our intentions and actions. People in an aroused state, whether sexual, emotional, or otherwise, make significantly different decisions from when they are calm. The failure to understand the impact of arousal on our decision-making leads to serious consequences, particularly in the heat of the moment. Decision simulations may help bridge the gap between our expectations and actual behavior in aroused states. Concept 6. The problem of procrastination and self-control. Have you ever put off a task knowing fully well it should be tackled immediately? Do tomorrow's deadlines slip by, leaving you in a tangle of regret and stress? Let's look at the procrastination puzzle, an enigmatic challenge where our long-term objectives and short-term temptations are at constant odds. It's a mind game of now versus later, where later appears hazily distant until it's breathing down our necks. A core principle at the heart of this struggle is the self-control contract. Aerially uncovers the potency of committing to a plan to curtail our dilly-dallying instincts. Think about gym memberships we purchase with aspirational goals. They're a contract we make with ourselves. Yet the gym often sees us less than we envisaged. Why? Because self-control is a muscle that tires easily in the face of immediate gratification. So, why do we often tip the scales in favor of procrastination? The culprit is our internal reward system. When faced with the choice of indulgence or diligence, the immediate rewards overshadow the distant outcomes, even if they are detrimental in the long run. Recognizing this, we should set incremental goals with concrete deadlines, creating artificial now moments that compel action. Instant gratification leads to procrastination and poor self-control. Present bias leads us to procrastinate and deprioritize long-term benefits. Deadlines, self-imposed or externally enforced, can improve commitment and completion rates for tasks. Pre-commitment strategies can be an effective way to combat procrastination and enhance self-control. Concept 7. The high price of ownership. Do you ever find yourself holding onto things you don't need, or feeling an item is more valuable simply because it's yours? Curious how ownership skews our perception of value? Let's explore the endowment effect, a phenomenon where we ascribe more value to things merely because we own them. Ownership changes our relationship with objects, imbuing them with an inflated sense of value that is subjective and often detached from their market worth. Aerially brings to light an intriguing paradox from the realms of psychology and behavioral economics. The more we own something, the higher we rate its value, irrespective of its objective worth. This intuitive sense of value increases our asking price, should we decide to sell. However, this is rarely matched by what others are willing to pay, revealing a disconnect between perceived personal value and market reality. Why does this matter? The high price of ownership influences everything from the clutter in our homes to the stock market. We hang on to stocks too long, expecting others to recognize the value we see. We overvalue our contributions at work, expecting recognition and compensation beyond what might be reasonable. We overvalue what we own, often irrationally, which is known as the endowment effect. The act of ownership leads to an attachment to an item and an increase in its perceived value. This inflated value can hinder our ability to sell or trade efficiently and lead to missed opportunities. Concept 8. Keeping doors open. Are you the type of person who keeps all options on the table, just in case? Do you find it hard to close doors on opportunities even when they distract from your main goals? If the answer is yes, then you'll find this concept both enlightening and transformative. Let's look at why our aversion to loss leads us to keeping doors open, often to our detriment. The opportunity paralysis comes into play when we overcommit to keeping our options open. Much like a chess master considering all possible moves, we tend to juggle too many possibilities in fear of missing out. But unlike chess, in life, this can lead to paralysis by analysis, where the fear of closing doors causes inaction and distraction from our ultimate objectives. Arousal challenges us to understand the economics of attention. Every opportunity we pursue divides our focus, and like a pie, there's only so much to go around. By trying to keep every door open, we spread our attention thin, reducing the cognitive resources we can dedicate to any one task. He provides an insightful metaphor likened to a Sophie's choice situation, where choosing becomes a necessity, not a luxury. We're compelled to assess what truly matters and make tough decisions to focus our energies effectively, which, in the long run, maximizes our achievements and personal satisfaction. We strive to keep options open because closing a door on an opportunity can provoke an emotional loss. Keeping too many options open can lead to inefficiency and cost us opportunities to engage fully in any single opportunity. Knowing when to let go of options can free us to exploit other opportunities more effectively. Concept 9. The effect of expectations. Imagine sipping on a fine wine, only to discover it's not the expensive label you thought. Would it still taste as exquisite? This is the effect of expectations, how our perceptions forge our reality. In this concept, Arousal introduces us to the expectations filter, our mind's unique ability to reshape our experiences based on what we anticipate. It turns out what we get is often what we expect, not because of the inherent quality of the product or experience, but due to our brain's interpretation of it. Let's delve into the placebo effect of price. Strikingly, Arousal reveals that higher prices not only change our expectations, but can actually enhance our experience. That is the idea of pricing as a quality shortcut. A pricier medication may seem more effective, and a costlier wine tastes better, revealing the power of price tags in shaping our subjective experiences. Our expectations can shape our experiences, from what we taste to the medical outcomes we experience. Expectations can influence the efficacy of products and treatments through the placebo effect. Concept 10. The context of our character. In the concept of the context of our character, we confront an uncomfortable but essential truth about our nature, our dishonesty. We start with an eye-opening statistic. In 2004, the annual cost of robbery is estimated to be $525 million, but it is dwarfed by the employees' theft and fraud at the workplace, which is estimated at about $600 billion. It sets the stage for understanding that dishonesty is not reserved for the few bad apples, but is a widespread phenomenon. We all like to believe that we're mostly honest, but Arous's experiments reveal that when given the opportunity, many people who consider themselves upright will cheat, just a little. This is called fudge factor. It's the psychological wiggle room we grant ourselves, permitting minute deviations from strict honesty. It's the perceived safe zone where we believe minor transgressions won't taint our moral self-portrait. Let's dissect this further. When we feel the push and pull between the desire to gain from dishonest acts and the need to maintain a clean conscience, we often settle into a delicate balancing act. Our actions hinge on this metaphorical scale, tilting just enough towards self-interest without falling off the edge of morality. Consider a professional facing the dilemma of inflating business expenses. Within their fudge factor limits, they may justify extra mileage or a slightly more luxurious meal. They tell themselves, it's a trivial amount, everyone does it, and the company won't feel the pinch. It's a concession in the internal dialogue between justification and guilt. How about in our everyday lives? Think of taking an extra piece of fruit from the buffet or logging fewer hours than worked on a freelance project. These are not the actions of outright deceit. Rather, they are the balancing acts of individuals navigating their ethical boundaries. Have you ever found $1 on the ground and experienced that brief moment of contemplation, to keep or not to keep? This takes us into focus the tangible connection we share with cold, hard cash, and the surprising way it tethers us more firmly to our moral grounds. When you grip a banknote, feeling its texture, its weight, you're not just holding money, you're holding responsibility. Dan Ariely's experiments reveal that physical money can heighten our sense of accountability. Unlike the abstractness of digital transactions, cash carries a solemn presence that quietly whispers, "Do the right thing." Imagine the last time you transacted with cash. Perhaps it was at a farmer's market or when tipping a server. Did you notice the weight of integrity in those interactions? Unlike swiping a card, cash exchanges require a moment of human connection. This moment, as Arousal suggests, is potent enough to invoke our internal moral compass. Now, take a moment and think. How does the physicality of money shape your choices? Are you more diligent with your spending, more charitable, or more cautious of taking what isn't yours when you're dealing with tangible currency? Cash doesn't let us forget the value of what's being exchanged. It's a scale for measuring the reality of trade, unlike the elusive virtual numbers on screens that can blur our ethical boundaries. This notion, however, stretches beyond personal transactions. It's also a crucial consideration for organizations aiming to foster honesty among employees. Instituting cash handling policies can drastically reduce dishonest behaviors simply because cash transactions don't allow for moral ambiguity. In a world increasingly drifting towards virtual transactions, these concepts serve as a poignant reminder of the power of cash. It is more than just a means of payment. It's a cue for integrity, a nudge towards uprightness, and perhaps a stronghold against the temptations of dishonesty. Honesty is not only a matter of character, but also influenced by the context or environment in which one operates. Small reminders of moral codes, like the Ten Commandments, can prompt more ethical behavior, even in those not particularly religious. Humans have a personal fudge factor they are willing to live with, balancing the benefits of cheating with their self-image. Stricter oversight and larger penalties do not always lead to less cheating, as people cheat by what they can rationalize, not by what they can get away with. When given the opportunity to cheat in a socially distant way, such as cheating a big, faceless company versus a person, individuals often justify greater dishonesty. Armed with the revelations from Predictably Irrational, you might be wondering how to navigate a world brimming with hidden influences and psychological undercurrents. Let's explore the strategies that can empower you to apply the wisdom of behavioral economics in your daily life. 1. Challenge the free lure. Adopt a mindset where free triggers a mental checklist of actual value, necessity, and utility. 2. Price anchoring awareness. Educate yourself on market prices to prevent anchors from pulling you into potentially regrettable purchases. 3. Recognize social norms versus market norms. Evaluate the nature of your interactions and which norm applies to avoid awkward situations or social faux pas. 4. Control your environment. A consciously crafted environment can foster decision-making that aligns more closely with your goals. 5. The power of comparison. Always expand your comparison horizons. The best choice might just be a little further away. Ingraining these strategies into your daily routine will illuminate the often invisible puppet strings of irrationality. While we may never be perfectly rational, we possess the magnificent ability to learn, adapt, and outsmart the subconscious biases that lead us astray. And that wraps up our video. Let us know which of these tactics you'll put into action. Share your thoughts on the marketing traps we've uncovered and your successes in steering toward more logical choices. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, turn on the notification, and share this video to your friends to become part of a community that is striving to reach their optimal self.